everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, my name's Nina. I'm a life transformation coach, and this channel is dedicated to wellness, personal development, and understanding our own psychology so we can lead our best life possible. So if you aren't already a subscriber, please go ahead and become one. We definitely want you to stay connected. So today's video is inspired by a Psych2Go video called 10 Unhealthy Behaviors to Get Rid of. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the channel Psych2Go, or if you haven't seen that particular video, I'm going to go ahead and list all the information down in the description box below. I can't recommend the channel enough. They take personal development and mental health topics and just make them so relatable and easy to understand. And I've had a lot of positive feedback on some of the videos that I have made in response to Psych2Go videos, so definitely take a moment to check them out. So today we're going to be talking about one of the things that they listed as the 10 unhealthy habits or unhealthy behaviors that we may be consciously or unconsciously engaging in that truly do lead to negative consequences. So this habit is the habit of complaining instead of taking action. And in this video, we're going to be talking about why we complain, how the behavior affects our mental health, and what we can do to effectively change this behavior altogether. I think we can all agree that life can be incredibly stressful, and the severity of the different situations that we are in right now has been incredibly overwhelming for most people. I think many of us are just simply unhappy with the state of the world right now, and maybe unhappy with our personal situations, maybe because of the state of the world right now. And when we feel hopeless, or we feel helpless, or we feel like there's nothing that we can do to make changes, we do tend to complain more, which is perfectly understandable. We have to understand, however, that just like so many of our behaviors, complaining is actually a habit. So we may be kind of unconsciously engaging in this behavior much more than we realize, simply because it is part of our mental programming. We may also be complaining because we want validation for how we are feeling right now, or our point of view, especially if we feel that it's been brushed aside or diminished in some way, or not taken seriously, or that we've been silenced. We may be looking for someone to actually listen to us. We may also want to feel that other people share in our misery as well. And also in this society, it's been a way to kind of start conversations. Maybe we are all really disconnected in other ways, but we all have this big commonality right now. So we can all kind of collectively complain about the state of the world, which is kind of a negative cycle that gets started as well. And lastly, we have to remember that complaining is much easier in a lot of cases than being proactive or assertive, or looking for solutions to problems. So when we are tired and overwhelmed, it's kind of a lazy way to express ourselves and to kind of let go of some of our unhappiness. So that may be a few of the reasons why we could be complaining more than usual right now. And before we go any further, I definitely want to stress the fact that it is so important that we do express ourselves, that we let off steam, and that we do vent when things are genuinely upsetting to us. This is a healthy and important and necessary thing to do. However, we want to try to find more productive and healthy ways to do this. So let's talk for a moment about the negative consequences that are often associated with the habit of complaining. Research has shown us that habitual complaining affects both our mental and physical health and greatly reduces life satisfaction. It increases our levels of cortisol, our stress hormone. It keeps us trapped in the cycle of focusing on the negative. It puts us at a higher risk for anxiety and depression, sleep issues, digestive issues, higher blood pressure, and even heart disease. It can also greatly harm our relationships and push away our loved ones, because let's face it, who wants to be around someone that is complaining all the time? And it also increases our negative feelings about the actual situations, and even worsens the situations in a lot of cases. So this is definitely a vicious cycle. We have to remember that as human beings, we do have a negativity bias, which means we are much more likely to focus on the unpleasant aspects of a situation than to kind of seek out any possible good. So this is something that we are naturally fighting against, but it is definitely important to do so. So because of this, we want to start paying much closer attention to our behavior and the motivation behind the behavior. Are we simply trying to gain perspective or maybe put words to our feelings? Or are we really engaging in a very unhealthy coping mechanism? And this is something that we really want to try to notice, because a lot of times it has become such a habit that we don't really see it anymore. A lot of people that complain habitually have no idea how often they are really doing this. And it could be really something that is annoying to other people, but they don't even realize they are doing it. So that could be any one of us. So we want to really sit down and really think about what we are saying before we post something or before we say something aloud. Think about what we are trying to get out of the situation. What is the motivation? If the motivation is purely to complain, then we want to take that step back. So we can simply ask ourselves, is this who I am? Is this how I want to be seen? Is this the best way I can express myself? Is there a better way for me to find validation? And if we come to the conclusion that yes, we are a habitual complainer, first of all, we can't judge ourselves because many people are. It's part of the societal norm right now, first of all. And we are going through a lot of really extenuating circumstances right now. But luckily, there are still many things that we can do to really cut down on this behavior. The first thing that we can do is to look within. So if we can look at the things that we are complaining about and really study them, we can see if they represent maybe a bigger theme, or if there are situations in our life that we are maybe deeply unhappy about. These things indicate that changes need to be made. But a lot of times we kind of hide underneath a lot of complaining, so we don't really have to address these issues. But when we can really study these complaints and see what these big issues are underneath, we can really get to the root of them, and we can start making changes. And maybe change seems overwhelming right now, but we can start by making small changes. But it all starts with really looking within and getting real with ourselves about what truly is going on. And sometimes when we do look at our life and think about the things that we are complaining about, we can find that we have legitimate concerns that do need to be addressed, of course, and then maybe there are some things that we habitually complain about that really don't matter, that don't deserve our time or energy, but yet they are growing in our mind because we keep talking about it and keep focusing on it. So these should be the first things that we toss out the window. If there are things in your life that you continuously complain about that really don't matter to you personally or really aren't that big of a deal, we can start there. The second thing that we can do is to try to become less judgmental. And I know this one can be extremely difficult because we are fighting against human nature, and a lot of times we feel that people or situations simply do not meet our standards or our expectations, and we feel that we want to be able to control how they think or how they act. We automatically assume that people should believe the things that we believe, or behave the way that we behave, and that's never ever going to happen, because first of all, they are genetically different. They have different bodies, they have different brains, they've had different conditioning, they've had different life experiences, and they will never ever see things exactly the same way. We all have our different lens that we see the world through. We have our own perspectives, and it is unrealistic to think that other people are really going to always line up with that. So we need to really break that habit so that we can be at peace, so that we can relax and just let other people do their thing instead of really having all these negative assumptions about them, which is really just very unfair. I have a video that I made on this called the fundamental attribution error that I'm going to also link down below, because this video talks about how we always assume the actions of others have to do with some kind of character flaw. We see it as a character flaw in our eyes, and a lot of times it has to do with external circumstances that we are not aware of. So that's something that we can remember when we are thinking about making judgments about other people. The third thing that we can do is learn how to vent in healthy ways. So again, it is important that we get our emotions out. We should be expressing ourselves, but we need to find healthy ways to do that. We can talk to a therapist, we can talk to a friend, we can talk to a family member, we can go out for a run, we can write it in a journal. So we do want to get these emotions out, but we want to make sure that we are finding the appropriate audience. For many people, the first thing they do is to run to social media and just tell everyone how they're feeling about situations, whether or not the people that are in their audience have any part of it at all, or have any reason to care about any of these things. And a lot of times people can get very, very offended. So we want to make sure that we are being very selective about finding that appropriate audience to talk to. We want to find the people that are either directly involved in the issue or the people that are closest to us that can be sympathetic and offer us maybe some good advice or a sympathetic ear. But we don't want to get into the habit of just dumping everything that we are feeling on every person that we know, because again, a lot of times it can lead to negative consequences there where, firstly, they see us in a very negative light, but also we could be touching on some very sensitive issues for them. So it could actually cause problems within your relationship when you are not choosing that appropriate audience. The fourth thing that we can do is really a life skill, and that is to focus on the positive. So we know 100% what we focus on expands. So when we are constantly complaining, we are going to do nothing but find more and more things to complain about. We're going to see more and more negative things, and we're going to attract people into our life that are also negative, that love to complain about these things for us. So it's just going to build and build and build. So if we can instead kind of zoom out, think about what positives exist within a situation, and even if it's just small, tiny little things, focus on these things as much as we can. We're going to find that we start to see more and more of the blessings in our life, and just that little mind shift really can shift our paradigm. The fifth thing that we can do is learn to be careful not to let negativity diminish our message. So what do I mean by that? A lot of times we have legitimate concerns. We have issues that do need to be brought out into the open, and we do need to communicate these issues to other people, but we do so in such a way that it is a turnoff to the other person, or they get offended by how we present this information and the message never actually gets heard. So we want to make sure that really we are being heard. So one technique that I use with my clients is I teach them to kind of sandwich the complaint within two positives. So we go positive, negative, positive, so it doesn't make them as offended or hurt by what we are trying to say. So for example, if we have a neighbor that keeps popping in, visiting unannounced, and it is very inconvenient for us, we could say something like, I really love spending time with you. It's such a pleasure to see you. However, next time, if you wouldn't mind just giving me a quick call and I can tell you whether or not it's a good time, because, the kids are here and it's really a distraction for me and I had some things I needed to do. But, and you give the positive at the end again, I really value our time together and I really want to focus on what you're saying. So I just would appreciate that call so that we can really spend some more quality time together. Something like that. So we want to, again, make sure we are sensitive in the way that we are delivering complaints if we do have something legitimate to say, because delivery oftentimes is so much louder to the person than the actual content of what you are saying. So you want to make sure that you are always delivering that message in a way that is the least hurtful and the least offensive. The sixth thing that we can do is to learn to focus on gratitude. And I know this was a very challenging year that we just put behind us, and I know it seems sometimes that it's hard to find things to be grateful about, but believe me, there are always things that we can be grateful for. There are always things that maybe we had overlooked, or maybe if we have lost some things recently or some things aren't available to us in the moment, we can really focus on how good they are and how excited we are for these things to come back, or just realizing the value of our relationships, or just patting ourselves on the back for getting through what we have gotten through, or being grateful for the lessons that we have learned. We can always find something. If we look for these positives again, we find that these things really do expand. So we want to just think about all the time what we are grateful for. If we can fill our hearts with what we are grateful for, it's hard to find things to complain about. The seventh thing that we can do should come as no surprise, and that is to practice mindfulness. Get in the habit of being in the here and now instead of being in the past and in the future, because that is where unhappiness lies. That is where it lives. When we are complaining about something that happened in the past. We need to forget about the past and think about where we are right now, because when we are, being miserable about past events or worrying about future events, we're not enjoying the present moment. It is impossible to appreciate and enjoy that present moment when we are thinking about the past and the future. And the easiest way to break this habit is to learn to practice mindfulness. And some things that we can do to kind of help us with this practice is to also practice things such as meditation or yoga or journaling or deep breathing, things that really bring us to the here and now. And the eighth thing is to actually do something about the situation. Complaining is not a solution. It's something that we use in place of a solution, but think about how much better our life would be if we actually solved problems and put our effort and time into being proactive and assertive and making positive changes in our life than to constantly feel like a victim that simply needs to complain about things. And I know that some situations in our life feel like we can't change them, and if we sit down and we figure out that these are things that we genuinely cannot control or change in any way, then we can simply change our behavior. We can change our thoughts. There's always something that we can do. We can change the way that we take care of ourselves. We can practice better self-care. We can work on our physical health. We can work on our mental health, which will help us feel happier and want to complain less. There's always something that we can do. When we shift our mindset away from constantly complaining to constantly trying to solution find and to look for ways to improve our life, we are going to feel so much happier and so much more empowered. So I truly hope this video was helpful to you today. If it was, please like it, share it, and do become a member of our community if you aren't already. We definitely want you to stay connected. Also, please comment down below the different ways that maybe you are complaining without realizing it and what you're going to be doing to change your own behavior. As always, I thank you so much for spending time with me today, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Have an amazing day.